What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to do what could be my final God of War Ragnarok theory video and talking about Mjolnir and if Kratos will wield it at some point in God of War Ragnarok. Now, I understand the timing. I understand how dangerous making a video like this is, so let me make things very, very clear. I'm not going to be reading the comments of this, so if you want to go after each other for spoilers of what's out there, what's not out there, be my guest. I won't be checking, and I'm sure people that care about not seeing spoilers, they won't be checking either. Also, I have not actually seen spoilers beyond that 50-second Thor versus Kratos fight from a few weeks ago. That's it. So I didn't see anything else, and I don't know, if this actually happens or if it doesn't, but I want it to. And so those are just things to make very, very clear. You can't get me with spoilers in the comments because I'm not going to check them until the game is out and, I've already played it. So here's the deal. I want to look at this from a strictly, I'd say, gameplay perspective. I guess there's going to be a little bit of story elements because what basically needs to happen, right, is you need to get that hammer away from Thor. That's the biggest thing, or you need to obtain it in some way. And in my opinion, and from what I've kind of seen online, there's probably two main ways of it happening, or that it could happen. And I just want to discuss, if it could. There is a third. I have seen other people's videos. I have seen some other discussions about maybe you swap at some point, like Thor gets the Leviathan axe and you get the hammer. That would be kind of cool. I don't know if they would actually do that, but that would definitely be the most different of all three choices for sure. The other two are simply you kill Thor and you take the hammer, or you use time travel, which honestly seems pretty possible the game is going to explore because it is just important, and you get the hammer from basically a different timeline, you bring it back into the current timeline, and there you go, you have it and Thor still has it. Now that line of thinking using time travel is probably going to help quite a bit using kind of gameplay mechanics or going down that line, because you'll run into some issues there. So let's talk a little bit about that. If you get the hammer, I look back to God of War 3. Obviously, it's one of the more recent ones. Obviously, Ascension came after it, but God of War 3, obviously, probably engraved in a lot of people's brains. Different weapons, right? 4 different weapons, and you get it throughout the game. Now, the last weapon you get in God of War 3 is pretty close to the end, but it's not at the end. So a question in regards to Thor will be, if you get his hammer by defeating him, well, when would that have to take place, right? That has to take place at some point in order for you to obtain it. All right, well, if you take him out at the beginning or middle, I think it's kind of clear whether you know leaks or you don't know leaks. There's no way Thor's dying like right off the bat. I'm not sold on Freya, weirdly enough. I'm not sold on that not happening in the beginning, but I do think Thor would make it, quite a while in the game. But I'll say this. My prediction long before I even thought about the hammer is that Thor won't make it till the end of the game. I don't think, this is just my thought, I don't think that Thor is the last villain, the final boss of this game. I don't know if it would be Odin because of just how they're setting him up and the kind of guy he is and all that. I mean, it could be, it could not be, but I'm going to just take that risk. And again, not seeing any leaks, I'm going to take the risk and just assume that Thor isn't the final boss. And I guess part of that maybe is the hammer, and part of it's just I feel like they're going to do something a little bit different for the ending. And now it works in favor with the hammer, right? Because if you beat him 60% in the game, you could get a new weapon and you would have it long enough to get familiar with it. Now, the whole switching hands, if he takes the axe, you take the hammer. The reason that would probably work is because they're similar in a lot of different ways. The axe was made to be able to combat the hammer, right? They're basically, they're part of the same kind of genes, right? So it really wouldn't be all that much different, but you'd have kind of at least a new elemental effect, you'd imagine, right? Kind of applied to it, but they would be pretty similar. I feel like that almost helps the idea that the hammer will be a weapon at some point in the game. I just think, God of War 2018, you bring back the blades, and the blades function, they're kind of the same, but they're, you're using them in a different style of fighting than you used to, so they're kind of different, but kind of not. But you have 2 weapons. The shield, I don't know if you necessarily count the shield. I mean, I guess you could. Now, in this game, shield is better. There's different kinds of shields. The weapons have improved. There's more ways of using them. But you still, again, do you want to count the shield? You generally still have 2 weapons. I feel like you're going to leave this game with another weapon. Now, of course, you end this game and then you go into the next game, whatever that is, with whoever it is, wherever it is, and there's a lot of things that can change. But I could see at some point in this game you being introduced to a third weapon and you being able to have a third weapon. And yes, obviously there's other weapons you could find in the Norse mythology that you could use, but the hammer, it's just so engraved in pop culture nowadays with Marvel. I guess with, obviously, I think Marvel really is kind of like the biggest proponent of it, but then you also have Thor in this game. So to miss out or to lose out on the opportunity to use it in a different way, and it would be much more kind of violent and different than what you would see Thor in the Marvel movies using it for. You know what I mean? I don't know if you could pass that up. So if you have to defeat Thor, I'd imagine you'd have to defeat Thor. And if those two things are linked, right? If you get the hammer from defeating him, then yeah, I think he has to kind of go before the ending of the game, because you want to give people the opportunity to use, most likely, you'd want people to use the hammer for the final boss. You wouldn't want to have them get it at the final boss and then not use it on anybody, you know, going forward. Now, there's like New Game Plus, and you can go back, you know, in the world and clean up the quests you missed. But I just think, you know, again, if you're just going through the base game, they probably would want you to have it for the last couple bosses or last couple fights or whatever. Again, the time travel thing is interesting. That's, you know, again, like, reviews are about to go out like tomorrow. Leaks are out there. I mean, people could already know the answer, and hopefully those people aren't even watching the video, because there's no way I'm providing them, you know, any value. So time travel could be mentioned in this stuff, or we could actually even see it tomorrow in the reviews. But if time travel, like, while playing the game starts to become a pretty big, you know, element of it, where it's like, oh, we're gonna have to go through into a different, you know, universe to figure this out or to bring this back, if that's gonna start to be mentioned quite often in this game, which, to be honest, right now we don't know, but I think as you're playing the game, you're gonna find out quite quickly what direction they're going in. I would say that then, or that angle of how you get the hammer, that would become more likely, that you're just gonna use time travel. Maybe there is no owner of the hammer or whatever, it's just easier to get the hammer there, and then you can bring it back, and then you fight Thor, and maybe now you can have Thor, right, as the final boss. So that's what I said earlier, right? There's ways around it. If you use time travel, if you get the hammer through other means, Thor can now be the final boss. You can get the hammer at any point in the game. You know, whenever you do the time travel stuff, you can get it. More time to upgrade it, more time to get familiar. Now you can fight Thor while he has a hammer, and then you also have a hammer, but you also have the blades, and you also have the Leviathan axe, which, again, remember, seemingly, first fight with him, you're not going to have anything but the axe. Next fight, if there are more fights, which you imagine there will be, then you'll probably have more weapons, right? At least the blades, if not also a third one with the hammer. So could be a cool way of doing it, where basically every time you fight him, you're getting, well, like, that kind of makes sense anyway, right? You're getting more powerful, you have more abilities or whatever, but also it's possible as you fight him, you're literally going to have more weapons to be able to use against him. So, including his own from a different timeline. So that would be kind of cool. So I really am leaning towards yes. I think no matter how you get the hammer in this game, whichever way that is, I do think you're gonna wield it. I just think it's too big of an element to Thor's character and to the game, and I don't know, you think back to God of War 3 and some of these gods, Hades obviously comes to mind because it's the first one, right? You kill him and you take his weapon, and now it's your weapon. Hercules, you kill him with his weapon, and then he has actually do the same thing with Hades, right? So these are common themes throughout the game, that if there's a powerful, well-known weapon, and this one is easily the most well-known of them all, and it's similar to the axe already because it can be called back, and you can just imagine Kratos would use it. Literally, the assets of how Kratos would move in the world would be very similar, I'd imagine, with one versus the other. It makes a lot of sense to give us it. All it really changes is now you'd have a new elemental power that you didn't have previously. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. This is the last one. I'll be going over reviews in a non-spoiler fashion tomorrow, and yeah, keeping away from all spoilers while doing that. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.